Gamers, we're back with another video. This time it's going to be my honest opinion about Macedonian Dynasty. So it's been about 2 weeks now since the creator preview and since the DLC got released. So I wanted to give my opinion on Macedonian Dynasty, starting with we're going to talk about their landmarks, their mechanics, their eco bonuses, and their units. So, number one thing, their landmarks. In Feudal Age, I think both of their landmarks are really, really good. And this is a very rare, well, not a very rare thing, but it's a, usually one landmark is just better than the other. I think both of these are great. So, depending what kind of style you want to play with Macedonian Dynasty, you can use both of these. Imperial Hippodrome is great because it gives so many buffs. It gives a torch damage buff, which is kind of whatever. But more importantly, you get units for free. You get 3 units for free, which is pretty big. Even though they're not instant, you get units for free. You also get bonus damage champion for your cavalry, and then you got the last champion is the one that inspires your infantry to move faster 15%, which is also pretty big. If you're doing any kind of a horseman or Ridari build or castle rush build, Imperial Hippodrome is great because you can further buff your units. Or also if you're going Varangian Guard spam, you can also go Hippodrome because you get the a champion that increases infantry movement speed, so it's great for that too. So I feel like Imperial Hippodrome is just great. On the other side, you have Grand Winery, which is obviously a bit more passive, but the food is quite crazy. So initially I thought this is a pretty bad landmark because I was like, well, villagers gather 30%, but then I realized if you're doing any kind of fast farm builds or maybe even 2TC builds and then Grand Winery into farms, it's very strong because your villagers gather food 30% faster around it, which means if you go early farms or some kind of early farm build, your villagers will gather insanely fast on the farms, making them super, super efficient. And it's almost like if you go to this landmark, in my opinion, it's almost not even worth to go out on the map for resources because you need to build a mill, you need to build a tower, just make farms instead. Slow transition to farms. So again, it depends what kind of style you want. Both are good, and if you're playing Macedonian Dynasty, just try both and see what works. Like if you go for Grand Winery, you can still go Horseman. Doesn't have to mean that you have to go Infantry or something like that. Let's talk about Varangian War Camp. Varangian War Camp is a bit of a weird one. Like, it's not amazing, it's not bad either. I've had some games where it actually came in kind of clutch for my opponent or for myself, depending which side. But basically, yeah, you get free units. I think you need to lose 5 times the amount in value of units to get units spawned, and you can pick any of these. I actually had a game where I was attacking the opponent, he was attacking me, so we kind of did like a base trade. But because I was starting to defend his push, he started spawning Varangian guards in his base with Varangian War Camp, and he managed to defend my push by just units coming out because I kept killing his units on the other side of the map. So it's interesting. Like I said, I wouldn't call it OP or anything like that, but I do think it's pretty cool. It's just like it's a house and you get some units for free. I mean, yeah, sure. Sounds good. Now let's talk about the next landmarks, which are the castle ones. So, Cistern of the First Hill and Golden Horn Tower. Now, both of these, once again, are pretty good. Cistern of the First Hill is a lot harder to use because you actually have to, well, use it. This one is just automatic. So, if you have APM or if you're going for some kind of castle rush build into Mass Ridari, you can constantly use this on a stable, or you can use it on mining camps to get gold, or on a farm to get food. So you can constantly just spam it and pump out a bunch of Ridari in order to push your opponent super, super quick. You can use it for all kinds of things because you can use it on lumber camp or like I said, mining camp or production buildings, whatever. But you gotta use it somewhat often, so if you're gonna forget about it, it's better not to go for it. Which I think in lower leagues specifically, Golden Horn Tower is probably gonna be used way more. It's basically defensive keep that you can garrison 10 villagers in, I think it's 10. And you get crossbows over time for free. And it has crossbow emplacement, which is pretty big because it hits really, really hard. So I think this one is probably gonna be used more. There's gonna be some builds with Cistern, but I think Golden Horn Tower is just really good, and it makes it basically almost impossible for like knights to harass you because it just does so much damage. But, you know, who knows what's going to happen. And then in Imperial, I can't check because I'm still in Feudal in this game, but in Imperial, we obviously have 2 more landmarks, which are, I don't know what they're called, but the one produces cataphracts, the other produces nested bees, cannon, and pow pow for silver. Once again, both landmarks can be used and are great, depending what you want, which is actually pretty rare for a civ to have 6 landmarks and all of them to be pretty decent. Now that I think about it. But I think the Cataphract one will be used way more because Cataphracts with Imperial upgrades and Cataphracts with Varangian Arsenal upgrades are just really, really, really strong. Like the amount of damage they get, the amount of upgrades you can get on them is really, really strong. The amount of armor they will have. I don't think that you need to enter this kind of siege war with nest of bees and cannons, because you have options to go Cataphract, so even if the opponent goes for any kind of siege, you can just kind of jump on them and kill them. So once you've spent all your silver on upgrades, then you can just spam Cataphracts for the rest of the game, which is, again, really good and gives you a lot of good value. Now that I've covered the landmarks, let's talk about their unique economic bonus, I guess, which is silver, which you can see right here, since they're Byzantine variant civ, they don't get oil, they get silver. So silver is used for the Varangian Arsenal upgrades and some other unique upgrades in the game. So this is very, very strong. Now, they do not have university, so, you know, that's kind of the downside. But in Feudal and in Castle, your units have more HP and you can get them higher armor and damage compared to the other civs. So you can kind of look at it this way. In Imperial, the game kind of evens out you with the other civs, but in Feudal and Castle, you can have a lot better upgrades than your opponent. Especially if you're going for like defensive upgrades, you get HP, which no other civ in the game can do, to get blacksmith upgrades basically that give you extra HP. Obviously, Abbasid has boot camp, but it's not quite the same, right? With this one, you can get HP on ranged units, infantry units, or cavalry units. So what do I think about these upgrades? Because you don't have to mine gold to get blacksmith upgrades, you can actually leave 2 villagers on gold for a very long time if you're staying in Feudal Age. And because of that, you can have more units by gathering wood or food, because you're using silver in order to get your upgrades. So you kind of get free resources in that way, but they can only be used for military upgrades. But it's still very, very strong. And if you ever play like prolonged Feudal, meaning Feudal longer than 15, let's say, minutes, you can even get +2 ranged attack, which, once again, no other civ can do, putting your archers at longbow damage in Feudal Age. So that's obviously very, very nice. And you can get this, but obviously it's very, very expensive, so yeah. And also their archers have unique ability where they ignore, I think it was 2 armor per shot, which is really good against any knights or feudal men-at-arms or even horsemen or whatever else. So I feel like with Varangian Arsenal, they have a lot of stuff going for them. Initially, I thought the civ is going to struggle maybe economically a little bit, so I thought maybe you gotta go Grand Winery every game. But because, again, you're having less workers on gold to get blacksmith upgrades, it kind of evens out and almost comes in your favor. Because when you age up to Castle, you use a lot of gold for +1 ranged attack, +2 ranged attack, +2 ranged armor, but they don't need to, so they can actually get more units quicker in Castle Age. I think their whole Varangian Arsenal is really strong, and I really like it. I think it's pretty unique. And one thing to remember, you should get Military Academy for your Golden Horn Tower to produce the crossbows faster, if you go for this landmark. Now, they have some unique upgrades as well, which are pretty strong, but this whole silver mechanic, as long as you're not losing mining camps, you're going to have plenty of silver, so you're going to be able to get these upgrades without even thinking about it. Like, over time, you're just going to get silver, and you'll be able to get your upgrades, so you don't need to be like, oh my god, I got to get more gold to get these upgrades or whatever else. It's a lot easier in that way, I think, to play Macedonian Dynasty. And by the way, I would put this civ, I forgot to mention, I would probably put it at 1 star. rating in terms of difficulty, because the fact that you have Varangian Arsenal and Silver, I think it makes the CET easier to play, not more complicated like Byzantine. Byzantine has 5th resource, but it makes it harder to play. Whereas Silver, I think, makes it a lot easier and you gotta worry about less things. And you also have a keep landmark in Castle Age, which makes things obviously easier to defend as well. Next thing, let's talk about their units. So, they have a lot of unique units, and I'm just gonna do a quick rundown. So their spearmen have a weird buff, which is for every Varangian unit around them, they get like attack speed. But overall, I mean, if you're fighting cavalry, they're just fine, right? They're more than fine. Then you have their unique champions. So I mentioned the scout one. You get some torch damage, which is pretty cool if you're raiding around the map and you have cavalry. You know, you can torch towers a lot quicker, so that's nice. The horseman champion that increases damage of your cavalry, I think is really, really good. Because I can't remember how much it gives exactly. I think it's 15% damage, if I'm not mistaken, which is really strong. And then you have the Hippodrome Ridari, which increases movement speed of nearby infantry 15%, which is just really, really good. So I feel like these champions from the Hippodrome are really strong. And if you are going for Hippodrome, you definitely want to be having them up all the time. Oh, increases damage of nearby cavalry +2. Yeah, +2. My bad. So if you're going for kind of mass horseman play, in Feudal Age, you can, just because of this thing giving you +2 damage, which is pretty big. Now let's talk about probably one of the strongest units in the game right now, which is Ridari. These guys are crazy. So there's a lot of builds right now with fast castle into Ridari spam, similar to like Byzantine cataphracts. These guys don't have a charge attack, okay? These guys don't have a charge attack, but they can use runestones, which I haven't talked about. So runestones is another unique mechanic for them, which I feel like is just really good, and there's no downside to it. So I thought this is gonna be a thing where, you know, you win a fight, and then in the next fight you can spawn these runestones. But I actually just find this really good, and whenever I'm playing Macedonian, I feel like I have this up all the time if I wanted to, once we start trading and once we start fighting. And it gives Varangian range weapons by 1 tile, which is always really good, melee damage by 1, and move speed by 15%. And like I said, once you start trading, this is up all the time. It is a bit annoying to use, but it is just very strong. I mean, if you have an army of like mixed, you know, infantry, cavalry, ranged units, they just get so many buffs and it doesn't cost anything. Like, you just pop it down and the opponent can't target it down to kill it. So it's like a mechanic that's just really good and there's no downside to it, which I found weird because I thought you would be able to snipe it, but apparently not. Doesn't mean it's overpowered, it's just really good. Now, Ridari have no charge, but they have this ability to throw axes, which they do 15 melee damage from 3.2 tiles for 10 seconds. So that's something you need to be aware of. They don't do range damage, even when they switch to thrown axes, they still do melee damage, similar to Sarges from KT. So this is something you can use against like mass spearmen. If there's no horsemen, maybe you can turn on the axes, snipe a spearman or two and kite. Or if the villagers are running away after you're attacking them, you can just pop axes, you know, kill a villager or two and then run away. It's just an interesting thing. I don't think it's too strong or too weak. They don't have charge, so they gave them something else. But they do 26 base damage, and this is the strong part. If you're going for these kinds of builds that I am going for right now, I have +2 armor on these guys. And they got 10% health buff. So they have 264 HP. They have 6 armor. And in Castle, if you keep upgrading them, which in this game I think I go for +3, their armor will be 7/7 in Castle Age. And if you also go for attack upgrades, you can buff them up quite a bit together with the Horseman Champion. If I am not mistaken, let me just double check. They can go up to 32 damage per hit, which is just obviously a lot, right? And then you can get this, which is another 1 damage, so it's 33 damage. Their movement speed is 175, which is really good. Horseman movement speed is 188, so the fact that I have 175 movement speed is really strong. Makes it so they can just run away from the other knights. And even horsemen have trouble hitting them, and when they do land a hit on you, you can just slap them back. So, yeah, they're very, very strong. So I would say Ridari are probably their strongest unit. Varangian Guards, surprisingly good in Feudal, by the way, because they have 4 melee armor, which I was not aware. I thought they would have 3. But they have 4 melee armor and 2 ranged armor, which also you can upgrade twice in Feudal Age, so you can get melee infantry armor. So that means that their Varangian Guards in Feudal Age can have 6 melee armor and 4 ranged armor, which is pretty wild. So there's some interesting interactions like that, but obviously a lot of it is based on silver. Next, their archers. Their archers are really, really strong as well. And Ridari and Bogmadir, I don't know how you pronounce the archers. Bogmadir, they're a very strong combo because Ridari are very strong knights. They can get buffed a lot. And then your Bogmadir can go up to +4 damage in Castle Age, which is again more than any archer, probably on par with Longbow. And they also have the activation ability that reduces, not reduces the armor, but ignores 2 armor per hit. So it's just a very, very strong combo. The one thing that's kind of sandbagging the Civ, if you will, is their economy. And I feel like they're not quite like OTD, like if you lose a worker, it's really, really bad. But because your economy is just, yeah, you get silver, which you can use for upgrades, but you don't have any kind of crazy improved gathering. But your units are very strong. So if you just kind of linearly go up and just continue scaling basically throughout the game, you don't lose any villagers, your army is better, your army is stronger. So that's kind of how the Civ works, and I find it to be pretty strong. Now, as far as, or how do I see this Civ being played in the future? Funnily enough, it is actually more diverse than Byzantine, and I'm talking about Byzantine because that's their variant, or their variant Civ of Byzantine. But they can actually go to town center, although I feel maybe that is too slow. They can go for castle rush into Ridari builds and taking relics, or you can just go 1 TC aggression all in, or 1 TC into some kind of aggression into fast castle. So I feel like they have a lot of variation, which is really, really good. And this is what makes them, I think, very dangerous. Because there's some civs like Delhi, for example, which is very strong, but Delhi just does one build over and over. And whenever you have a civ that can do multiple builds, and they're all like good, that makes civ very scary. And especially because it's kind of not that hard to play, right? One more thing that I forgot is they have a unique barracks, I guess. I don't know what to call it. Varangian something. I don't know what's it called. Which basically you can produce their Varangian units. So you can produce their spearmen. You can produce the archers. And then you can produce Ridari, right? Wait, can you also produce Varangian guards? I can't remember. But that building is pretty interesting. There's a really OP upgrade. This is something that you should use because I cannot imagine this not getting nerfed at some point in the future. The barracks have an upgrade that costs, I think, 100 gold, 50 stone. And all your barracks get arrow slits upgrade on them. So you can kind of build barracks on almost like outskirts of your base. And then once you get the upgrade, you kind of have just like barracks that are basically towers at the edges of your bases. That's pretty good. It's not overpowered or anything, but that's something you can use with like a 2 TC build or even some kind of weird castle rush that you're doing, and so on and so forth. So overall, I think it's very diverse civ. It feels pretty nice to play, pretty smooth. I think it's pretty fun to play because the upgrades make it very cool, and like there's so many ways you can play it. You can go like mass archer, you can go mass horseman with upgrades, you can go mass Varangian guards. So you can kind of really lean into upgrading just one type of unit, or you can just go for more regular play, whatever you want. In terms of where do I see this civ long term in pro play, I think this civ is probably just going to be a good land map civ. I don't think it's going to be played on water maps because of Drummond's right now are very bad, and they have Drummonds from Byzantine. Small or little known fact, or maybe you do know it, but if you put the Varangian stronghold, the thing that resurrects your army basically, if you put it next to water, so you can produce Drummonds, which are the fire ships, you cannot make Springle ships, but the Varangian stronghold, I think that's what it's called, can actually make Springle ships. I don't know if that's intended or not, but they're probably not very good on water. But land maps, I think Macedonian Dynasty will be played, maybe some hybrid maps where, you know, maybe like a canal or something, maybe even Boulder Bay because the distance between the opponents is pretty small, maybe Golden Heights, Golden Heights probably not, but I think it's a pretty good civ, a pretty strong civ. I think it's going to be used in competitive play as like a, you know, a civ you just pick kind of safe. Doesn't necessarily counter anything, but it doesn't also get countered by anything. Although, as the time passes, like I said, the DLC has been out for 2 weeks. As the time passes, people are probably going to figure out, you know, what the Macedonian Dynasty is good against, what it's bad against, and so on and so forth. On water, you can lose ships and make Archer Spear Knight from War Camp. Yeah, there's interactions like that, you know, that you can do, but you can do something like that for sure, which I think is pretty cool. So overall, Macedonian Dynasty, thumbs up. I don't know where I would place it in terms of tier list. I don't think it's S tier, probably not an F, you know, D tier, probably not C tier. I would probably B tier, A tier, maybe A plus. I'm not sure, but I don't think it's overpowered. But I definitely don't think it's like undertuned either, where it like needs buffs immediately. The one thing that I can see this civilization being nerfed in the future, if they do nerf it, it's probably going to be Ridari because their stats are just extremely good, and specifically their movement speed is insane for a knight. So that's it. If you're playing Macedonian Dynasty, I don't think it's going to receive any massive nerfs anytime future, but I also don't think it's going to receive any massive buffs anytime future either. So if you like it, thumbs up. I love playing Macedonian Dynasty. I think it's a lot of fun, and I'll definitely be playing it in tournaments. So that being said, if you're watching on YouTube, I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I already covered giving my honest opinion about Sengoku Daimyo. The next one we're going to be doing is Tughlaq Dynasty or Golden Horde. We got those two remaining, just kind of talking about their age ups, basically the same type of video like this one. If you're watching live, let's keep going.